The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is also to the Treasurer. On page 2.56 in Statement Number 2 of the Budget Papers, the Treasury argues that the maintenance of high levels of public sector saving, and I quote, is vital to stabilise our external indebtedness and reduce our vulnerability. Will the Treasurer explain to the House how he can hope to stabilise our external indebtedness when the accepted measure of public sector saving, that is the public sector borrowing requirement, was negligible last year and is budgeted to be zero this year? That is, to use your words, Treasurer, in an earlier answer, you will not change our savings balance one iota.
The Honourable Treasurer.
A very curious page for the Leader of the Opposition to choose. It's the last paragraph on the descriptive part of Statement 2 on the economy. Let me read you the first paragraph, Mr Speaker. Finally, the marked deterioration in Australia's external accounts, which has its roots in the deterioration in the public sector's financial position between the mid-1970s and early 1980s, has left the Australian economy with a long task of adjustment.
Order. Order.
You guys have got more front than Mark Foy's, getting up, asking a question. In other words, the government of which you were the principal advisor to the then Treasurer, who now sits behind you, who were in office from the mid-70s to the early 1980s, you presided over the marked deterioration in Australia's external accounts, which had its roots in the deterioration in the public sector's financial position in that period, which the Treasury said has left the Australian economy with a long task of adjustment. Now, back in, I think it is 252, it says this as well. As private sector net lending gradually declined in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the impact on the current account of the earlier boost in public sector spending and the associated deterioration in public sector saving soon emerged. As a consequence, Australia entered the 1980s with a significant structural deterioration in its external accounts. In other words, you let the game fall apart when you and the member for Bennelong ran the shop. And now you're parading yourself as some person with fiscal virtue when we've spent 7 years digging the nation out of a hole you put us in. Now,
Order.
Go for it, brother. Go for it. And
Order. The member for McKellar
and the
will
fact
cease
is,
interjecting.
the fact is, you dislocated private investment to such an extent that we could not produce our way out of our troubles, and we met the shortfall in production with imports, which has given us now a huge fiscal imbalance. And this government has now tried to rebuild the capital stock so we can export more and import less. And its roots go back in that period of spending for which you had no discipline. Now, the Leader of the Opposition asked me about this thing. While policies are in place to stabilise our external indebtedness and reduce our vulnerability, they will inevitably take time. Well, that's true. Of course it's true. Why do you think last night, against all the cyclical influences of a slower economy, we brought the surplus in at the same figure as the previous year? Why do you believe the government decided to bring in a surplus which would have a bigger impact on the economy this year than last year? And that will need to be kept there. And it won't be able to be blown out by you guys thinking you could come to office, running down the public sector surplus with a consumption tax if you decided to decently compensate people. I mean, this game is now on for real. The hole you put us in, it's on for a long adjustment. And you're now, maybe it's just becoming apparent to you, the guilty people, that I'll bet, Mr. Speaker,
Order.
Mr. Speaker.
Order. The House will come to order.
Mr. Speaker, there was a time when I had a better relationship with the member for Bennelong than I have today. In those early days after 1983, he was always jaunting through the corridors, engaging you in brisk conversation at any turn, discussing any of the policy changes which were denied to him. And I used to often wonder why he was so jolly and so jaunty about his demise. And the answer was he was more clever than I at the time gave him credit for. He knew what he had done. And so had So had his accomplice, the leader of the opposition. And what they did was hope like hell someone else could get us out of the problem. And as we finally grind the net exports out of the place, 7 years on, under difficulty, you now all think, oh, we'll come back, you've had to have high, we'll come back and score off you. We who put you in that position in the first place. Well, look, that's what you thought in 87, that's what you thought in 90, and if you think you'll think that again at the next election, you'll come a cropper again as you did in the last two. Because in the end, your essential indecency always finds you out.